everyone, this is my intro into my video on prepping your pieces for our applique. And I had to do this because I made a mistake in the middle of it and I wanted to tell you about it at the beginning. So this is the block that we are making this month. Sorry, the fan is going. It's like 80 something degrees in my house. I can't get it any cooler, so I have to have a fan going. Actually multiple fans. So this is the block that we are doing this month. I'm going to try to do one a month. When I'm talking about the preparation for this, I say you only need to trace the Mylar template for just one of these because they are duplicated, the 4 branches. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me stand up and hold it. So these little branches right here, and right here are actually 4 different shapes. So when I say that in the beginning, I'm wrong. I figure that out in the middle when I start gluing them down. So I say at the end also, I didn't want you to start and like pause it and think and work it out step by step and then figure it out when I say later that you have to do it, actually 4 of them. So just know that when you're cutting out, maybe you could see it better on the paper. When you're cutting from the pattern, that this one, this one, and this one are all different. So be very careful when you're doing those. That was just my introduction. So I hope you enjoy this. The next video will be on stitching the pieces down, and hopefully it will be out within the next few days, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Hi everyone, so this is going to be the first video with my quilt along. I did an introduction where I just went over the supplies that you were going to need, and it just dawned on me that I never linked them. So I will, hold on, I need to take my charm bracelet off. Sorry about that. I didn't think about that before I started, and I don't want to start over. Okay, sorry about this light here. It's from, I've got an overhead light, and then I have my ring light. I turned my ring light off because it put an extra little ring around this, but I may need it in a minute. So if you're just wondering, I don't know how to get rid of that. So this is the book that we're going to be using. I have already, I would have had this out a few days earlier, except I could not find my external CD-ROM that I had to buy because the patterns aren't in the book. They come in the little CD that's attached in the book. So I had to find it, and of course I left it in my laptop case, which makes sense, right? You would think that it would be in the computer case. It was. So I found it finally yesterday. So I was able to print out my pattern, which I'll talk about in a minute. I am going to start, I mean, you can start wherever you want. I'm going to start with A1 and A1. So this is the layout of the quilt. Let me see if I can zoom in. This is the layout of the quilt. I'm just going to start here and work my way across. So A means first column, 1 means first row. That's how she has broken this down. And if you look, that's on page 51, this layout. If you look on page 64, I have it marked with some cards here, then it has, here's a picture of the lighting is terrible. I just don't know if I'm trying to figure out how I can, oh, there we go. That's a little better. So this is the whole quilt. And so this is it right here. And then she also has, I don't know if that glitching is going to be in the video or not. I have this so that it's in my on my computer screen. I think that what I'm seeing The glitching part is just on my computer screen, I'm hoping. So here is the antique quilt. And then this is her rendition or recreation, I think would be a better word, reproduction of this block. Now this block is a little bit different in the fact that it actually has blanket stitch. Ugh, the lighting is just atrocious here. Okay, I'm going to turn this light off and see if it's any better. I think it's going to be too dark where I'm sitting in my room. Hold on. Oh no. Well, yeah, see, it's a little dark. Well, this is just irritating. I'll just do my ring light and see if that works. Okay, so this is the recreation, and if you zoom in, you can see that there are actually blanket stitches around the red. So it's one yellow piece and two red pieces here with yellow blanket stitch all the way around it. And that's the way the old piece actually looks as well. The antique, if you will, the old piece, the antique. And here on page 40, she talks about some different methods that you can use to create this first block. So here is a picture of the antique as well. So you can see this there are three separate pieces, and whomever made this block did a yellow blanket stitch all the way around. So here is her, how she, I'm trying to move my drink so I can move my book up. This is, and it looks here like she used a sewing machine to do this, but you could also use, she just talks about different methods. You can use freezer paper and do it by hand. So over here, this one is the one that is done by hand. So you can do it any way you want. You don't even have to put the blanket stitches on this one. And I looked, and I'm pretty sure this is the only block that has those blanket stitches on them. So it kind of makes me wonder if this was made by more than one person. Things like that always intrigue me. I did not read about the original quilt. I should have done that before I started this. There's a crazy idea. So I'm going to read about it and see. It says 1848 is when it was made. Anyway, I am going to read about that later. But for now, so I have already printed out my pattern pieces. Move this out of the way. And I have taped them together. So it printed out in 4 separate sheets, 4 quadrants. And then the only reason that I went ahead and cut and tape them together is that I need this when I lay my pieces out before, after I prep them. So my method, the most time is spent in prepping the blocks. So then I was kind of wondering, what are all of these dashed lines? And then when I looked in the book, those are the quilting lines. And I do plan on hand quilting this when I'm finished. So I'm going to actually use these quilting lines to quilt mine as well, which I'll go through when and if I ever get finished with this quilt. So, all right, so this is our first block. And looking at it, it may look like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a lot of pieces like templates to cut out. Now, the templates themselves, there aren't that many different templates because the way that she designed this or recreated it, she made them all the same. So now the original probably was not all the same. These flowers were not all the exact same shape, but the way she drew them out, they are. So that means I only have to make one template for each of this centerpiece and each of the middle piece and etc. Okay, so the leaves are all exactly the same size as well. So I just need to make one template for all the leaves. So what I did then, let me put my book down here. What I did was I took this packing paper that I had laying next to me, And I labeled all of my pieces. So let me zoom in. Hopefully by the end of this, I'll be better at showing what I'm doing here. I labeled all the different pieces, and I got from A to J, so 10 pieces. And so then I counted how many of each one that I would need for the whole thing. Now, is this accurate? I don't know. I haven't made it yet. But so if you want to take a screenshot of this, I can put this in the notes as well in the description box below. So, okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my heat resistant Mylar, and this is the brand I told y'all about in the previous video when I went over my materials that I was going to need. So I'm going to take this, and I have some pieces. You can see that this is another quilt on which I'm working. I just have these extra pieces, and I like to use them up. I'm not going to get a new sheet. I'm just going to use these little pieces. But if this is your first project, then you would use the whole sheet, of course. I like to use all that I can. So I'm going to start here with A, and all I'm going to do is this Mylar is rough on one side and slick and shiny on the other side. I want the rough side up. Now, the great thing about all of these pieces is that they are, most of them are, I'm trying to get it lined up, sorry. You don't have to worry about which side you're flipping it on. Now, when I do this one, I will need to make sure that I have them. Actually, I'm looking now. Nope, they're all, I won't have to worry about it being facing the correct direction. So like if you have a bird, I need to make sure that my bird is facing the same direction when I start putting it on my fabric. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it'll make sense when we get to it. So for right now, let's just do this. So I have the rougher side up, and you can see that's kind of messed up. I'm just gonna fill it in, and I'll fix it when I cut it out. And then all I'm going to do is just kind of say, well, this is where it would kind of go like this, right? To make it look like that. And then I'm going to bring it over here and put it on this one. And see, they're pretty much the same thing. Oh, you can't see that because it's up there. So they're pretty much the same thing of the whole thing, they're just in different locations. I'm just checking up there. Okay, so then I'm going to put, this is A. You really don't have to put A right here because it's really the only leaf on this page. Now, if you had a bunch of different types of leaves in different sizes and things, then I would label them. But just to get into the habit, I'm going to go ahead and put my A on there. I also like to do that because if you drop one of these, you're going to cut this out, and then we are going to make sure we erase all of the pencil marks just to make it cleaner so I don't get any on my fabric. So the only thing that actually that you'll be able to see is this letter. So if you drop it, it'll be easier to find. So that's just a tip. All right, now I'm going to try B. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to see how I'm fitting it on. This is the edge of my Mylar right here. I'm just trying to use up every usable space. Trying to get the most for my money, if you will, because this is why I have packages that have lasted for years, because I try not to waste it. And then if it's a big piece like this leaf, I know I'll be able to use it again. I can either, most of the time, and I'm going to put a B on this one. So here is my B. Do you see how I try to fit it? I try to fit it as tightly as possible so I don't have this part right here that I throw away. I want to throw away as little as possible. I don't even know what I was just saying. So there's B. Anyway, so all I'm going to do is draw these. Now this one is going to be underneath this part right here. So what I'm going to do is this part, I'm going to draw straight. So that tells me that that part I'm going to have to prep for my fabric. Then I'm going to just draw a dashed line. That tells me that another piece, see this B piece, is going to sit on top of this C piece. So let me pull it up here so you can see it. So here is my dashed part. So I know I need my fabric to be 1/4 of an inch at least bigger, but I don't have to tuck it under. I'm just going to leave that out, which again, we'll talk about when we start placing it as well and when we start prepping these. So this is my C piece. Now my D piece, you could use a, hold on, I need a drink. You could use a bias tape maker. Sorry, this is the closest, what do you call it, ruler I have. This is 3/8 of an inch. So I could use a 3/8 of an inch bias tape maker. I just am not good with the bias tape, and the same thing for G. So for me, I'm just going to trace this and do it as one long piece. Now, some people would probably think that is just ridiculous. But I can actually do this faster than I can do bias tape. So I'm going to have to use a different piece, trying to make it fit as closely as I can. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it right there. Okay, so again, this D piece, this big fat stem, is going to go under this part. So I'm going to put a dashed line right there. And then it's going to go under this one. So I'm going to put a dashed line on this. Oh, you can't see that. Hold on. Let me move it down. There we go. So I put a dashed line at this end and a dashed line at this end. Then I'm going to draw a solid line here. Now, in videos that follow this one, I won't do this the whole time. Like this time I'm going to show you all of it, like me tracing all of it. On subsequent videos I will just do anything that might be new looking, but the rest of it you know you'll be able to, by watching this video, you should know what to do. Okay, so this is my D piece. All right, so let me show you. You can see right here, whoop, I messed up there. You can see where I pick up my pencil. When I start cutting this out, that's how I'm going to make it smooth. Okay, so there's my D. I like to do them in order. I'm going to go back to this piece, trying to fit it on here. I try to do them in order so that I do not forget a piece. Sometimes that's not possible because you have a piece that might fit into a small space, so you may skip one. Just make a note that you need to come back. Now the E, this piece, it doesn't tuck under anything. It actually is on top of the F. So this one doesn't have any dashed lines, just a solid line. So that just tells me cut it out and you don't have to worry about the rest. So there we go. This is E. So then F, I'm just going to pull it down just a hair. And I'm going to do dashed lines here. And solid lines here. So any part, the whole time you're doing applique, you need to be thinking about layering, what goes under what, the order in which you're going to put them together. E, F, G. Okay, so this one again is going to tuck under the fat stem right here, so it gets a dash. And then it's going to tuck under this E part here, so it's going to be dashed as well there. And then solid lines on both sides. G. All right, now come the flowers. So when I first saw this, I thought, what in the world? What are all these little pieces right here? Well, that's where she used that to mark the line for her stitching. So the actual part that you need to cut out then is the outside of this little line. Does that make sense? Maybe I should zoom in. Uh-oh. Oh, my thing paused. Hold on. I can't get it now. How do I open it back up? Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. My phone timed out. Okay. So this little thin line is where all her stitching is. So she could mark it and she would know how to mark her stitches. So this is a yellow piece. The center of my flower is yellow. So the piece that I'm going to cut out is this outside edge right here, this one, because the stitching needs to go over the outside edge. So then my eye piece is going to be all the way to here, this outside. So it's this part plus the little part. I hope that makes sense. So let me zoom back out a little bit. All right, now the way I would do this to save the most, I don't think I can fit it on this piece. Nope. Okay, let me tell you how I would normally do this. I don't think it's how I'm going to do it now because I don't want to confuse anybody. The first thing I would do is when I have, especially like a flower that has pieces that are on top of the flower, I start with the largest flower first. So I'm going to, and again, this is not under anything, so it's just a solid line all the way around. I'm going to put J on it. Oh, it's a sloppy J. All right, so can't go that way. All right, so normally what I would do is I would cut this one out. I would cut the largest one out. And then I would prep all of them. And I think there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would prep all 6 of these. Then I would bring this template back, lay it down here, and then I would trace the eye one underneath and cut that one out. And then I would prep all 6 of those. Then I would come back and I would trace the H one on top of that, there, and cut that one out. So with just this one piece of Mylar, I can do all 18 pieces. So that's how I save it. But I don't want to confuse anybody by doing that. I don't know if that would be confusing. I think it's pretty straightforward. But so I'm going to go ahead and just trace them 3 differently. But then I will, let's say if this was my next block, I could just come in and take this big piece and lay this in here, and I can trace pieces within it. So I'm not going to waste any of it, is what I'm saying. All right, so that was the J. I'm pretty sure I can get the I back on this one. This one wasn't that big. All right, so then instead, I'm going to go ahead and do them all now since it's our first block together. And I'm going to say this again. This is not the only way. This is called prepared edge applique. This is not the only way to do applique. Whoops, maybe I should come down. But it is the way that I get the best results. So you do it however you want. If you like needle turn applique, I can never get my curves to be perfect. And I know you're not supposed to be looking for perfection, but I just am. Or as perfect as I can get it. And nope, that one's not going to fit there. I can put it there. And you can also do raw edge applique, which is just where you put the fusible on the back and you can fuse it down, and then you can do a stitch on top of it. You can also, Lori Holt has a way with, what do you call it? The interfacing, where you sew it to the interfacing and then you turn it out so then the edges are good to go that way. I don't like that because then everything gets too thick, and I don't want my applique to be really thick. So this is H, and I'm going to do that because that's I and that's H. I don't want to get it mixed up. All right, so there are all of my pieces. Nope, did I get them all? H-I-J, yes I did J. Okay, so now I have all of these, and now I'm going to cut them out. I will just spend a few minutes talking about cutting them out, and then I'm going to turn the camera off to cut the rest of them out. Let me cut this apart because that's for a different project. And that I don't need to save. All right, so whoop, here are my pieces. I need something white. Well, here, I'll just use this. Let's see. Yeah, that's good enough. So when I cut these out, I'm going to use my serrated scissors. It works wonderful. I showed these in my previous video when I talked about the supplies that I need. So I usually do a rough cut, but these are awfully close together. I'll go ahead. When you are cutting, you need to remember you actually don't move your scissors. You move the material. Gosh, Jennifer, you got this. I have it on my computer so I can see what you see, and I'm not paying attention. So I need to make sure I'm in screen is what I'm saying. So I'm sorry if I'm not. So what I'm going to do is I am keeping my scissors still. I'm turning this hand. So I'm turning my Mylar. I'm trying to get a smooth edge. But if I don't, it's okay, because one of the things I told you that you would need is a emery board or a nail file. And you want to take long strokes. You don't want to take little short choppy strokes. Okay, so here's my A. Whoops. Here's my A. So now I'm going to feel, and I can feel right there, there's a bump. Let me get my bag over here. There we go. So I just get these cheap emery boards from Walmart. And, well, the first thing I would do actually is erase all of my pencil lines, because part of the pencil line is left on the part that I cut out and the other part is on here. So what I do is I take a piece of paper that I can throw away and I just erase like this. And I like to use a gummy eraser, and I just use one of these. It erases it very nicely and doesn't smear it like some erasers do. Now the reason I use a piece of paper like this is because sometimes it gets on your table or wherever you're working, so it's better to have something to cover it. So all right, so that's the first thing. I erase all of the marks. Then I start feeling, and right here, I don't know if you can see, there's a bump right there. Now the lady from whom I learned this technique, there's one right there as well. I can't see it, but I can feel it, and you'll be able to see it when you actually start doing the this with the fabric. So she calls them nitnoids. I think she made that term up. So so I'm just feeling for any inconsistencies, and I'm just going to take my emery board and just rub it over where it feels rough. What you do not want to do is take your scissors and try to cut it, because you're just going to make it worse, usually, unless you're really good with scissors, I guess. But I'm just feeling, and now it feels good. So then I felt one over here as well, right there. Just feels like a little inconsistency, so I'm going to just, and sometimes you don't notice them, and when you start prepping your pieces, you're like, oh, there it is. Now I see it. Okay, so this one's all prepared. So I'm going to do that with all of them. I'm just going to cut them all out, and then I'm going to file any place that is doesn't feel smooth. Now on the curves, where's the one I just had? Let's look at this one. Well, let's cut this one out. So this is B. So I'm going to start right here. Now, if you get a nitnoid, some kind of bump on a curve like this, it's harder to get your emery board inside there. So I, especially when I'm cutting this part, I try to do one smooth all the way through so I don't have to file. But when I learned this, my teacher said you just buy some of these cheap ones like this and you can pull them apart, and then you take this rough part, or you can take sandpaper, wrap it around your pencil, and then go like this, and it will file it down as well. So that's an idea for you as well. But the main thing is, don't move your scissor hand. Move the hand that's holding whatever you're cutting, and do long strokes. Okay, so now, oops, I'm going to erase. I still have my grandbaby charm bracelet on, but it doesn't have as many charms, so hopefully it's not as loud. Okay. So I'm just going to take my emery board then. I feel a little one right here. And it's usually where when you get to the tip of your scissors and you have to move your scissors to start cutting again, is where you usually will find them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the rest of these pieces out of the Mylar, and then I'll be back and we'll talk about our next step. So I'm just trying to get the rest of these off before I... Okay, I think we're good. All right, so notice though that I can still see my letter. Can you see it? I hope so. All right, so here's my A and my B. So I'm going to cut the rest out and then I will be back. Okay, so I have all of my pieces cut out, and now I'm going to use the picture on page 64 as a reference for the colors of which shape is which color. If you're doing your scrappy, you can do it however you want. I'm just following the same color placement as the author did and the original quilter did. So I'm going to start with my... I just have my fabric right here. My red fabric. So I just cut a piece of red fabric off of my large piece. And now I'm going to, I should have done this before. I'm going to get my container for my sizing. So again, this is what I'm using. You can also, if you cannot find this, because my mom seems to think that they don't make it anymore, I'm not 100% sure, but you can also use starch. It does the same thing. I think it's just not as thick as starch. So I'm just going to spray some in there, and while I'm just waiting for the foam and the fizz to go away, I'm going to set it to the side. And I'm going to do my red pieces first. And I'm going to start with a larger piece because that's probably going to be easier. And so this is my J. And according to the notes that I took, I should have 6 of these. So what I'm going to do then is take my fabric that I have, and I'm going to fold it not that you can see it, but I'll just do it. Well, first of all, I need to do it right side out. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm coming. Don't worry. Here I come. So I'm just going to, I can just do it on one. So I'm just going to lay my fabric right side down. So here's my right side. and I'm going to put the dull side down, shiny side up. Well, I'm looking now. Yes, that's my dull side. And I want to have at least 1/4 of an inch all the way around before I do this step. Now, some people draw this part. If it was a lighter color fabric, I don't like to draw on that with the pencil because you might still be able to see it. But this is a dark red that I'm using, so I'll be okay drawing on this. If it was a white, I would not do that. But I would just hold it and cut it out. So you can do that as well. I'll probably do that on the yellow. We'll see. Oops, sorry, my iron's over here warming up and it's touching my fabric. So I'm just going to go around, and it doesn't have to be perfectly drawn as long as you can see. In fact, I should get my, you know what I should get, because this is not wanting to, you're not going to be able to see this. Okay, hold on one second, because I'm going to get my friction pin so you'll be able to see it, because you're not going to be able to see this. So hold on one second. Okay, sorry, was on the phone with my daughter, so it's been a little bit. What I did was I went ahead and got a friction. This is a friction marker. They also have the pins that you can buy. It's erasable. The heat, it erases. So I'm going to use this. I think you'll be able to see it more easily than the pencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trace around, oh, whoa, or right on apparently, trace around my template. And then what I want to do is I want to cut 1/4 of an inch outside of that line. So, oh yeah, I think you can see that better. So here is my flower. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my same scissors. You can also use any fabric scissors that you have. And I just want to cut about 1/4 of an inch. I probably should have started with a leaf. It doesn't have any concave pieces, but that's okay. We'll start with the flower. I just wanted to start with the red. I do love red, so. And I thought it would be a bigger piece. Maybe that would be easier. So what you're going to do is you would need to cut out 6 of these. And it doesn't matter if it's exactly 1/4 of an inch. If it's a little less, it's okay. A little more is okay. You don't want a huge seam allowance, and you don't want a super small seam allowance. You just need to find the Goldilocks seam allowance, I guess, the one that is just right. So here I've cut mine out, and it's just about 1/4 of an inch. Mine may be in some places maybe 3/8, but for the most part, it's about 1/4 of an inch. So usually I cut it even a little bit more than that. So like 3/8. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I have these concave points on my flower. So when you have that, you want to snip into that point. And I want to get very close to the point, and I want to leave about 2 threads of the fabric. Hopefully you can see that. But I want to get right up next to that concave point. So I'm going to snip into all of these. And you'll be able to tell if you snipped enough when you start prepping them with your sizing. And we can always cut it a little closer. So I don't want to snip right to the line. I want to be like 1 or 2 threads away from the line. Okay, so I've snipped all of mine, and I should have, you know what I forgot to do? Darn it, darn it, darn it. Oh, what I normally do is I make a mark, because you'll find that these are not all the same. Like the little pieces are not all the same. Well, first of all, let's make sure I have it right side up. This way. Oh no, but that goes down. I'm trying to find where they match up perfectly. What I usually do is draw a line, which I will show you as soon as I find it matched up perfectly. Okay, so here we go. That's close enough. So what I normally do is I make a line, just one, like that. And so then I also put it on my fabric like this. So when I take it off to cut it out, I'm able to line this one up with the one I made on the fabric. So then you don't have to sit there and turn it around and around to try to make it fit like I just did. Okay, so I have my tile that is covered with muslin. And I have my big one because my smaller one is at my mom's house, but that's fine. So my sizing, you can tell now that the foam is gone. And I just need my bag here. I just need to get my paintbrush. And I'm just going to get it all nice and wet. And I'll just put this up here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go around my flower. And I want to make sure that the sizing has gone all the way through the fabric. You don't want to get so much that underneath the Mylar is super, super wet. So, but I do want enough that it does saturate to the other side. And you'll trial and error, you'll be able to tell. Now, does some of mine get underneath? Absolutely. Not a lot, but when you're finished, it needs to be all dry. So, now the great thing about using this ashtray from the dollar store is that the little indentations is perfect for my brush and it doesn't roll away. All right, I don't need my bag now. All right, I do need my stiletto, which I thought I had brought. Oh, you know what? It's over on my cutting table. Well, I'll just see about using these tweezers. We'll see if I can do those. All right, so what I'm going to do, now normally I use my Clover iron. I'm using this one that I showed in my video. You just want one that doesn't have the holes. And I'm going to see if this is going to work. I usually enjoy using the Clover one better than any other one. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make this sit here. Okay, so I'm just going to look at this, and it goes, oh, I probably should zoom in. Hold on. Then I'm going to have to move my thing. There we go. All right, so you can see here, hopefully, I'm just a couple of threads away from that line I drew. So Holly Nelson is the person from whom I learned this technique of prepared edge applique. And she said she teaches it. You just take your iron and you drive into that point. And then all you're going to do is you're going to let it sit here until it dries the sizing. Now, we are going to have to re-wet the curves of the flower, but you can let it sit here for quite a while. It's not going to hurt anything. And you'll see now that that one is dry. So what I'm going to do now, and this is really kind of a hard piece that I started with. I should have started with a somewhat easier piece. I'm going to come to this side, the one that is opposite this one. And you don't pick this up because now it is now stuck. I'm going to move my sizing. It is now stuck to your tile, well, the muslin. And so I'm going to turn my tile, which if I had my smaller one would be easier to do on the video. And I'm going to now come, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to check, and I can tell I'm going to need to cut this a little bit more. It's not, do you see how it has a big gap between my Mylar and where I stopped cutting? So I'm going to just take my scissors, and I'm not picking this up off of my tile. I'm just going to cut it a little further in, and I always just push it with my finger, and it's very wet. And then I'm just going to take my iron and drive it, because she just means just push it on in there. So then I'm just going to let it dry. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to do all of the concave points on the flower, just like this. And I always do one side and then the opposite side. And that is going to then, my template is stuck in there now. So I'm sliding my finger pretty hard on this, and it's not going anywhere. So then the one I will then do would be this one on this side. And I'm just going to check. I need to cut it a little further. And then I'm going to do this side. My iron, the cord is too short. Let's see. Let me see if I can move my plug over. See if that helps. I'm going to have to move my camera, I guess. And I'm just going to push it in. You can probably hear it sizzling. Maybe I'll just make this episode or this video just on the prepping of the pieces, and then I'll put them together in a separate one, because it's going to be a long video if we... Okay, so then I will just again turn my tile around. I'm so zoomed in I can't tell where I am. And then I'm going to go to the opposite side. Again, push. And if ever this dries up, all you have to do is just re-wet it with your sizing. So I know a lot of people don't like to hold their irons down, but when we're finished with this, I'm even going to just let it sit there for quite a while, and it's not going to hurt anything. So... it's counterintuitive from what we've learned, or I've learned when I was a quilter, to leave your iron on your fabric like this. And that's why you want the heat resistant Mylar. I will tell you, Lori Holt's shapes that she makes, her So Simple shapes, they are not heat resistant. I messaged her and asked her about that. So what I do with hers is I take the heat resistant Mylar and I trace her shapes onto the heat resistant, and that's how I do it. So now this has dried up right here from the heat from these two, and you'll see that there's just a little bit of fabric holding on to these points, and that's fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just re-wet this. So I just take a little bit of my sizing and re-wet it. I fluff it up sometimes with my brush. Oh, I need my stiletto, but I don't have it. Okay, I'll just hold it that way. Oops. So, like I said, I'm going to do this all the way around, all the points, and then I will be right back to show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, I've already rounded these. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to show you the rest of them. So you can see when I did the concave pieces that these are now pointy, and I don't want them pointy. I'm using this Templar as a guide to make sure that my pieces are exactly smooth and round as the drawing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of my sizing and just re-wet where the curve is. And what I like to do is I take my stiletto, and I showed this in my supply video, and this is one that my mother made, and I just use my fingernail and the stiletto to push it down and make it curve like it should be so I can kind of see it. And then I take my iron and I'm just going to go around the edge. And if you don't get too close to your fingers, because it will generate steam. So once I get up into it, I will pull my fingers back And that's when I use my stiletto more as well. So once I know the edge is pretty much down, then I just put my iron on there and I just leave it. Take my hands off, they're off. And I just let it sit there until it's dry. I would say 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, anything like that. So it just kind of depends. And then you can always check it. And that one's pretty dry. So then I can go on to the next curve. I wanted to do some of these together. So, and I'm just going to get a little bit of sizing on my brush. And again, I want to just add it to the fabric here on the curved side, because this is already touching the template here and it's already touching the template over here. It's really just this curve. I need to work in this excess fabric is all I'm doing here. So again, I use my stiletto and I just kind of bring it down like this. It's you're kind of like pleating it on the back. Now, if you are a needle turn applique person, then you're going to get to the sewing part a lot faster than I am. So if you're someone who wants to do something that's fast, this is not going to be the method for you. But if you want something that's super accurate, then this is a great method. And if you can do needle turn applique and make it look accurate, then I would like you to teach me how, because I have tried and tried. If you can hear that, my husband is watching soccer. You know, the World Cup is going on, and so something just happened because he just said, oh. Anyway, so I have tried needle turn applique and I cannot make my curves perfect, and it drives me crazy. And so this does take a long time, but I don't mind. I enjoy things that take a long time. I am very much a process crafter of any kind. And so I enjoy this whole process. The stitching it down is going to be a lot faster my way than if you were a needle turn appliquer, just because I don't have to worry about turning mine. All I have to do is just stitch it on, and the stitching goes very quickly. So it just depends on where you want to spend your time. I'm still sure that I would think that a needle turn somebody who's really good at it would be much faster their way than my way. But I'm just showing you my way. You use the method that you like. So if you use Lori Holt's method, then your time is spent in the stitching and then the turning and the pressing. And so all of them take time. It just depends where you want to spend your time, I guess, and which way works best for you. Because as I learned, I tried all the different kinds. I don't like the finished look of raw edge applique, which is why I don't do that. I enjoy the hand stitching of the applique once it's prepped, stitching it to the background fabric. I don't want to use my machine, so I don't like that. And like I said, I've tried needle turn and it just never worked for me. And this was when I took this class, the first time I took a class with Holly Nelson, it just changed my applique outlook altogether. Because at first I thought, I guess I just won't be an appliquer, but I just really love this method. So, okay, so now, oops, it's stuck to my iron. I'm just gonna put my iron on top of it and let me kind of zoom out a little bit. There we go. So you can see, I just have it sitting right on top. I hope it wasn't too zoomed in the whole time on that last one. I just wanted you to be able to see it really well. So that's how we're going to do the flower pieces that have the concave parts. And when you flip it over, then it's perfect. Except for it has little pieces that need to come off of it. Other than that, it's a perfectly shaped, and it's ready to be stitched down. And I love that. I don't have to worry about turning it exactly, like drawing the line and turning it to the line. Now, to take it out, super easy. I wait till it's cooler than this usually, but it's pretty cool. You can either use your fingernails, you can use a pair of tweezers. You just reach in, you grab the template, And I don't like to use, I usually use my fingers, and I just pull it out like that, just fast motion. And so then I set it down again. You don't want to add any sizing or starch at this point, because if you do, it's going to release and you're going to lose your shape and you'd have to start all over. So that is the part, I think this was J. Yes, right here, Jennifer. It's J. So I have to have 6 of these. And like I said, it took me, well, I'm videoing, so it took me even longer, but it takes quite a while to do it this way. So now I'm going to switch and let's do a different shape. So hold on one second and I'll pick out a different shape. Okay, so the next one I thought I would do is shape A, which is our large leaf. Now, the fabric that I'm using has a definite pattern to it, and you can see the vertical lines that are here with the yellow. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my A again with the rough side down, and I'm going to line it up so that my point is on the yellow and then the bottom curved part is also on the yellow. Do you have to do that? No. If you wanted them like this, then it would look like they're running this way. But I thought this way it kind of looks like the veins of the leaf. The main vein is running down here. It really doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. But I don't know if this friction pin is going to work because my my tile is still warm. It holds the heat. And so we'll see if it stays on there. Oh yeah, it's good. So I do like the friction marker better than the friction pin. I think it goes on easier than the friction pin, but that's total personal preference. So again, I'm going to cut this one out, and this time I'm going to leave a little bit because I feel like mine last time was too narrow. Well, that's all bumpy right there now, Jennifer. So I'm going to cut it out more like a 3/8 of an inch. Yep, 3/8 of an inch. So I'll cut it out like this. And actually with the leaves, I normally do not draw them. I'm drawing it so you can see it. You can kind of see where it's fading here because of the heat from the tile. But usually with a shape like this, it's super easy. I'll just hold on to it where I want it to be, like this with my fingers, and I won't draw, and I'll just cut it out because it's faster. And if it didn't have this yellow line that I'm trying to achieve down the center, I would even stack fabrics up like 3 or 4 of them so that I'm cutting out more at one time to save some time. But with this one, I am trying to be a little fussy about where I'm cutting. Oh, I'm hoping I've been in frame this whole time. I wasn't even watching. Okay. All right, so that's an example of you don't even have to mark it. You could just cut it out that way. All right, so let's go back to the one that I marked. And I'm going to place this down. Yep, place this down. And again, this time, all my shape is completely convex, which means that it's curves to the outside. There's no inward curving at all or points. So again, I'm just going to take my sizing and I'm going to paint it on to my seam allowance. And you want to make sure that it goes all the way through. I really should have started with the shape because it is like one of the easiest shapes to do. If you're doing Lisa Bonjean's quilt Betsy, it's an orange peel. Orange peels they look very much like leaves. So it's the same kind of thing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move my other tools. And I like to start at one point and work my way around to the other point. So I'm going to pull this one up, and I'm going to take my iron and I'm going to put it right here. And I usually like to use a stiletto to pull it down because I don't want to burn my fingers. Oops, let me see if you can see. I pull it down and I grab it with my fingernails. So I'm just going to move it around like this. Try not to use the stiletto so you can still see it. And I'm pushing the iron this way across my Mylar. Let me zoom in a little bit. So that I'm trying to catch the edge. Let me see if I can zoom in and you can tell. So if you look right here, this part is still wet and kind of ruffly looking. All I'm trying to do, and that looks like it needs to be pulled in a little bit more right there. So if that happens, all you do is just re-wet the part, and I try not to dip it in. I just want it damp a little bit so I can get it to stay. And I push it down. So, hold on. Okay, so I pull it over with my fingernail, and then I move it across with my iron. I turn it into the Mylar. So I'm going to pull this down, and then I'm going to pull it across. I think it's focusing too much on my iron. Let me zoom back out. Oh, wrong way. One day I might get this down right. All right, and then I want to go all the way to my point. So I keep pulling it and pushing my iron across until I get to the point. Then once my edge is all dry, then I'll just put my iron down like this so it can dry that inner part now as well. And I want to make sure that's nice and dry before I start working on the other side. So I did put the sizing on this side and it is still damp, but I'm still going to need to add some more. So really you could have just put the sizing on one side and then just add the sizing to the other side when you're ready to do that side. Okay, so then I'm going to turn my tile around to right here. Hold on one second. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit more sizing to this side. Like I said, it was damp already, so I didn't have to add a whole lot. Okay, sorry about that. My daughter called. She was crying. She was upset. But she's okay. Everything's fine. Okay, so all I did was add a little more sizing to this side. And when I fold this over, I want to make sure there are 2 layers here. And I want to make sure both of them get folded up right next to that Mylar. So I kind of hold it with my fingernail right here. And I push it up with this other hand. And I push it over so that there's not a big bump there. And so I'm going to pull that back and then hold my iron there. And I'm going to do the same thing where I just pull this back and push my iron across so that I'm basically just drawing the sizing that's on the edge. So I'm going to go all the way around. And like I said, if you take your iron and you just push it over the Mylar, that's all you're doing. Now right here, I need to make sure again that I get both layers of this. I think it's focusing on that hand. I need to get both of these layers pulled over to the Mylar. And here I'm just going to use my iron as a tool to push against the Mylar. Okay, move my hand so you can see. So I just make sure that I pushed up against there, and this edge again right here, it looks a little ruffly and it's still a little damp. Once I have my edge all dry over here, then I'm just going to take my iron and set it on top and remove my hands, and I'm just going to let it sit there and dry the rest of that sizing. Just push down on it a little bit. Okay, so while it's doing that, all I have left now are what we call the flags at the 2 points of the leaf shape. One is pointier than the other, and the thing is you can make your leaf look any way you want. So you don't have to worry about one being rounded and one not. So let me zoom in and see if I can. So let's look at this flag right here. So see how it flags up and it's hanging over this. Now, this is stuck to my muslin because there's so much sizing. I'm going to go ahead now. I would not do this normally, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. And you can tell, see how stuck it is? I would leave it stuck, but this is what it's going to look like on this side. So you can see right here, this part right here, I need to tuck behind my Mylar. And then over here, there's just a little piece right here that needs to be tucked back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this flag back like this. And I'm going to hold it down. And then I'm going to put a little bit of sizing just on this point. And I'm holding this down. You can either hold this down with your stiletto or with your fingernail if you're worried about burning yourself. So, and I'm just going to put my iron on there and push it down like that. And then I'm just going to let it dry. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Now, it's easier if you have a bigger flag. That flag was very small. So we probably should have had a bigger seam allowance at the top, but that's okay. So now when I flip it over, you'll see that it goes completely around. Oh, nope, I'm off. Do you see how there's a little bump right here? Now, if that doesn't bother you, that's fine, but that's going to bother me. So I'm going to flip this back around, and I see it right here now. So all I do is I'm going to hold this with my fingernail, and I'm going to take a little bit of sizing and just touch that one little point, and I'm going to pull back. Did you see how it disappeared? And then I'm just going to use my iron to dry it. Basically, is the iron is just there to dry it. All right, so now let's move on to the other end, which is this bigger flag. To me, it's easier when it has a bigger flag. So a bigger seam allowance is advisable. So I just folded it back. Did y'all see what I did? So I just want to fold this back so that none of the flag is hanging over this edge nor this edge. And then I just need to get a little bit of sizing and tap it in. I want to make sure it soaks through, so it's going to hold, because basically it's just acting as the glue. And then I'm just going to push down. And again, then we're just going to let the iron sit there and let it dry. And I think, how many did I say we needed of these? We need 15 of these. Leaves and orange peels, they're my favorite to make, because once you get the hang of this, they're super fast. And so I really enjoy making them. So let's see. That's good. So now what I would do, oh, hold on one second. Okay. All right. So let me zoom. Nope, wrong way. Zoom out. So here's my piece. Sorry about that. My puppy was barking. And I'm just going to pull the fabric back, grab the Mylar, and I do it very quickly. I just pull it out super quickly. Then I just fold it back over and it stays. I'm going to put it back down, right side up, and then just press, because I did pull it out and I want it to make sure it stays nice and flat. So here is my leaf. I'm thinking now that I may change the stem colors to a different green. I don't know if this is going to be too strong to be the stems as well. I'm going to go ahead and make it out of this green and see what I think. I just wonder if it's going to be too busy, but I'll make that decision later. So, all right, I'm going to put that one to the side, and I'm going to pick out another shape to make with you. Ow, 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 ow. Sorry about that. I hit my elbow right on my funny bone when I tried to turn on the camera there. I was like, oh. But I think I'm okay now. All right, so here is my E piece. And according to my list, I think we need 4 of these. So I want to make one of these with y'all as well. This one is also, this is a concave shape as well, but it's more rounded and not as pointy. So it's a little bit different than the other one. So again, I'm just going to trace. This is going to be the last time I do that on video, but I just trace around the shape. This one is a little more difficult in the fact to hold it with your hand, especially I'm trying to line this piece up like right here. So if I want a fussy cut, it's just going to make life easier if I trace it on there. And I'm just tracing it with my friction pen and cut it out just like before. So we're going to say about 3/8 of an inch. Now when I get down into my curve, I don't want it quite as thick because it is a little bit different than a convex curve. So when you have a convex, which means the curve is coming outward, then you really don't have to do anything to prep it. But when you have a concave point, oops, out of frame, then you're going to need to snip. So right here, where this part comes right here, I'm going to snip in there. I don't think I have to get it quite so much as I did on the flower because it's a more gentle concave situation, I guess. And then this part, this one is a long concave part, and I'm going to snip in intervals. I'm guessing about, I'm doing mine about 1/4 of an inch apart until I get to the middle, and I'm clipping there, and then I'm going to work my way back around this concave section. Once I get to there, I'm good. Let me see if I can put it up here and you can see it a little better. So there's the center one, but can you see? I've cut those apart. Hopefully you can see that. I can't really tell for sure what's going on. I am sorry for any noises, but I am at my house and I don't know. I can't do anything about that. Okay, so again, shiny part up. I'm going to put this one down, and I want to start with this concave area. So I am just going to add my sizing to that part, and then I usually fluff mine up with my brush, and the ones that are down here at this point need to be clipped pretty close because you're going to need some stretch, and I didn't do mine enough, so I'm going to cut them a little bit more. You want the fabric to be able to stretch into that curve. So again, I'm going to take my iron, and as Holly said, you just want to drive it in. I'm going to take the point of it and just drive it in. And any part that doesn't look good once I've done that, because it probably won't, I'll just touch up with a little bit of sizing and pull it back again. So let's look and see. Actually, that looks kind of good. I'm going to feel with my finger, and it feels like the fabric is all the way against the template, the Mylar template. So I'm just going to let that sit and dry all the way. Then I'm going to come over here and do these 2 concave points, and that should hold my Mylar into place. Then I shouldn't have a problem. So I'm going to turn this around here, and so I'm going to come over to this one. Oh, see, my Mylar shifted when I did that, so let me see about getting it back. Okay, so I'm going to add some sizing to just this area. You can put it on the whole thing if you want. I can tell when I fluff it up that this is not all the way to that point. So I'm going to cut a little further in. and see how that works. So fluff it back up, and then I'm going to take my iron and push it, and then I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to do the same thing to this side over here, and when I've done that, then my Mylar should be in there firmly. Now I can tell already, let me turn this around, that this has, I'm not in frame, that this has too much seam allowance. So I am going to have to probably cut some of that off, but I will deal with that when I start making that curve. So then I'm going to do this concave area and make sure I've snipped it in far enough, and it looks like I have. So then I just use the tip of my iron to push, and I'm just going to let that dry as well. Then I'm just going to work my way around, and if I had my Clover iron, I'm not sure where I put that, I would be using that for this piece because it is a small piece and I need to move in relatively small intervals. Oh, I think I pulled it off. Yeah, I did. All right, well then I can move it over here because for some reason I was on the edge. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with this right here, and I feel like this is too big, so I'm going to just trim this off and make it a little bit narrower. All right, because my Mylar is now being held in there where I've pressed in those curves. So again, just add some sizing and then work your way around with your iron. So I'm just going to start right here, and I'm going to use my stiletto for this definitely because I don't want to burn my fingers, and I'm just like gathering it with my stiletto. I think you can cut, let me move my hand and see if you can see it a little better. You can see all the little ruffles that I'm creating. Oops. So I'm going to gather it all the way around. Now this one's going to be a little tricky because you have a lot of fabric you need to work in, and you don't want any little points sticking out. You want it to follow the curve of your Mylar. So usually this piece would be stuck down by now, but I did move it, so let's make it a little more challenging. It's just a slow process. Once I have all of the edges pressed against the Mylar, then I will just again put my iron on top, and I think that's good. So I'm just going to let it sit there and until it is dry. I'm going to go ahead and go around the rest of this piece, and I'll be back when I'm finished. All right, so I finished this one up, and this is what it looks like from the right side, and this is what it looks like from the wrong side. So all I'm going to do here again is just fold back the fabric, grab my Mylar, and quickly just rip it out. Then I'm going to push everything back, put it right side up, and then do a quick press with my iron. So that is this shape, which is my E. Is that my E? I think so. All right, now let's look at a stem. So this is my stem, and before I cut it out, I already traced it. I said I wasn't going to do that one anymore with y'all, so y'all can do that. I'm going to, I'm seeing, did I do it wrong? Hold on, I have to hold it over here. The light's giving it a funny, yes, I did. It should be like that. Well, darn it. Well, good thing. This is, friction pin, so it just goes away. All right, well, I am going to draw it now. Hold on, I gotta let it cool off. I wanted to go over this one with you. You need to make sure that you have the shiny side up, so I need my right side down. When I cut this out, this right here, the dashed line right there and the dashed line right here are where my piece is going to fit on top. So when I cut out this fabric, I need to make sure that I leave enough of this to hang over for the other piece to sit on top of. And so when I draw this, I just drew around my, oops, that was my finger now. Drew around my stem. It's hard to do while trying to watch this on camera. And then I'm just going to add the dashed lines right here and right here. And that's just going to tell me, make sure that I cut at least 1/4 inch over this line for the other piece to sit on top of. So you can leave longer depending on how big the piece is that you will be placing there. So I'm going to leave about that much. And then on this one, I'm going to use more of a true 1/4 inch seam allowance, just because when it folds over and then this seam allowance folds over, I don't really want them overlapping if I can help it. If they overlap a little bit, I'm okay, but for the most part, I really don't want them because it just creates a lot of bulk within your applique quilt, and you really don't want a lot of bulk, where'd that come from? A lot of bulk in your applique quilt. So again, on this end, I'm going to leave about that much extra hanging off the edge, and then I'm going to cut back this way. And again, on my concave curves like this one, I will be snipping little lines into it to help the curve ease in when I iron it. So for example, right here, I have a slight concave curve. I don't need to use very many because it's not a really deep one. So I'm just going to put in a few, and then on this side, here's a concave curve. It's a little more curved than the other one, so I'll put a few more in. Like I said, when you're prepping the piece with the sizing, if you need to add a few more snips or make them a little deeper, you can do that at that point. You just don't want to overdo it at the beginning. Okay, so making sure that my right side is down, which it is now, I am, let me put this to the center of the tile. It'll make it easier to move. Going to line it all up, and I'm just going to start on one side, and it's pretty much just like what we've been doing. I'm going to add it to one side of the stem, the sizing, if I can hold it, and press it down, and then the other side. Some people like to do like a little piece here and then a little piece over here to kind of hold it in, but I find that you can pretty much do it with your fingers, especially this one is not very long. So I'm just going to start at this end, and notice that I have this extra fabric, that this dashed line is where my other shape will sit on top of this stem. So if you want to trim some of that off later, you can always do that. So I'm just going to start at this end and work my way down the stem. So just as we did before, using our iron to push against the Mylar. Now, my Mylar got off, so I'm going to have to push it back with my hands. There we go. And this is where my concave curve is coming in, so I'm going to kind of push and then hold. So fabric has a lot of stretch, especially on the bias, which the way I cut this, it does have some bias, which is helping it with the stretch. And then the little snipping into the fabric and on the concavity, that also helps with the stretch of the fabric. So then I'm just going to use my iron to press it over, and it looks like it is going to overlap there. So here we go, almost to the end. So I won't go into this much detail in the following videos. I'll just refer to this one. But so some of them will be more like just applique with me kind of videos, where I may show some, if there's something new that we haven't spoken about on a previous video, I might bring up. But for the most part, this is really all there is to it. And like I said again, if you are doing this quilt along, but you're using a different technique, that's great. As long as you're joining in, that's wonderful. So you do whatever is easiest for you. This is just what I do. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side of the stem, and then I will be right back. All right, so for the most part, they're butting up right next to each other along here. I have a place right here where they're overlapping, but it's not bad. I could shave that off if I wanted to, but for the most part, it looks good. So again, it's stuck down. I gotta get it off. I'm just going to go into the center somewhere, pull it up, grab my Mylar, and in one quick motion, I'm just going to rip that Mylar out. Now, where it is overlapping right here, I need to tuck it under. I just want it to lay flat. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. And we need, I think, 4 of these. So here is going to be my stem then. All right, so I think there's the stem that looks like this, that's going to be prepared the same way. You're just going to overlap it on each side and make sure that there is fabric hanging over the edge here as well. The only other one that I thought I would show you today is F, which is one of the buds. I haven't really done one like that. So let me cut off a piece of red fabric very quickly. And then we'll do this one. So this one I'm going to draw just so you can see what I'm going to do. So I want to put the rough side down and draw around it. Now this this dashed part right here, I'm just going to just kind of put a dash around it. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry, my husband was on the phone, so I turned it off in case you could hear that. All right, so all I did was I traced around this top part, and I did a dashed line around the bottom, and that's going to show me that I need to leave some extra fabric hanging down here that's going to be covered up by this E part like this. It's going to look like this. All right, so I'm going to leave some excess red around the bottom, and this part is going to be the part that, okay, hold on one second. Well, I'm trying to. Okay, it's actually been, I guess, over a week now since I was working on this, but had a lot of family in and been doing some babysitting of the grandchildren, so that comes first. So I'm back here to finish. I just needed to show you one of these next, and so this is one of the buds for the flowers, And so if anything looks different, it's because, well, I left my other cup that I usually use at my mom's on Sunday. I was doing some appliquing at her house, and so that's why everything might look a little differently, but that's okay. So I did get all of my pieces prepped other than this one, because I did want to show you this one. I think now I've shown you an example of all of them. But so here I'm just going to pull it up against the plastic Mylar. I did find, well, actually I did not find, but this is my mom's Clover iron. She does not like using this at all. I like it on little pieces like this, and I really like it on, like, hold on, let me grab one. These pieces right here, the center of the flowers, I find it easier. Now here's the thing, this part right here is also hot, and so when I first started using it, I wanted to press down on it, holding there, and I would burn myself a lot. But other than that, and then I will use my stiletto just to pull my fabric around the Mylar. Sorry, it's been so long since was working on this, I kind of forgotten what I've said and what I haven't said. For y'all, it'll be instantaneous, of course. So I'm just working my way around this top curve, which of course is the most difficult part. It's not difficult, but if you had to name the difficult parts, I guess this would be. And you just pull it around the Mylar. Make sure it's tight. If you can hear it in the background, I have a fan going because it is very hot here. I listen to people talk about how hot it is where they are, and I'm always thinking that's kind of funny because it's always hot here. So I guess I don't know the difference. It's been like, I can't get my house lower than 80. It's been so hot outside. And I live in a house my grandparents built. So my great-grandparents actually had a house here that exploded in the 1900s that they had built. Anyway, we have put insulation and stuff in, but it's an old house, so there's not much you can do about that. All right, so here, so I have the fan going, and my husband's watching, bless you, watching soccer in the other room. So, bless you. World Cup's going on. Sorry, allergies. So this is what it looks like now. So it's nice and curved, no little points or notches anywhere. So I'm just going to pull that out. And that is the end of my pieces that I have prepped. Let me zoom out. Nope, that's in, Jennifer. Here are my pieces over here. This is my beads from the parade we had in town. So let me zoom back in a little bit. Let me move those, my beads, so they aren't in the shot. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm finished with prepping all of my pieces. I'm going to remove my, oops, some of my flowers. I had them under the tile so that they would be flat. All right, so now I'm going to get my background. You can see my, I have a fluorescent light above me. All right, so this is eggshell. Oh, hold on, I'm finished with this iron. Let me get rid of it as well so I don't burn myself. The background that I'm using, I don't know if I've said that, is eggshell. It's a Bella Solid. Hold on one second. I had to get a drink. Sorry about that. It's a Bella Solid. And if you look on page 15 in your book, so in our book on page 15, it has the cutting instructions, how to lay out your fabric and cut it to get it the best usage of your fabric. So you can use that. I am using a Bella Solid eggshell. That's the color, is eggshell. So now, if you need it, you can use a lightbox. This is the brand of the lightbox that I have. Sorry, I may have to turn that light off. I got it from Amazon, and I will try to link it below. it was less than $20. It was not very expensive at all. But you can tell by looking at this, I can see through it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see through it on the camera. So that, I may have to use it for the camera. Hold on, I left my pattern over there. Hold on one second. Okay, so here is my pattern that I cut and taped together at the beginning of the video. And I'm just going to line this up. Now, when I did cut and put this together, I did measure it on my cutting board to make sure that it did actually measure the correct size that it says in the book. So that way I knew for sure that my printer had printed it correctly. All right, and I usually will just eyeball it, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm just looking to make sure that the edges have the same amount all the way around the sides. You can also fold your fabric if you want. You can either do it diagonally or you can do it horizontally and vertically like this. Find the center and line it up right here. Let me zoom in. This is the center that is created. It's marked on the pattern. So if you want, now let me zoom out. Nope, wrong way, Jennifer. I'll get it one day. So I'm going to fold this in half. I'm trying to match up the ends there. And I'm just going to crease it right here in the center. And then I'm going to fold it over this way. Now, I did cut mine larger, just like it says in the cutting instructions, so that I can cut it down. Because when you applique this by hand, it is going to draw in this background fabric. And so you will lose some of the size. And so you want it to be bigger so you can trim it down afterwards. So let me see if you can see. You can kind of see the fold right here that I created, and that's that center. And so I want to mark it matched up with that center right there. Maybe if I use, let me see. I'm looking at my computer screen and what you're going to see. I'm going to turn on my lightbox. Oh yeah, you can see it better that way. So I just have to get it in frame. There it is, right there. So there it is right there. So I'm going to match it up just like that. Now, when I was taught to do this, I'm trying to remember which way to go. There we go. Holly Nelson said to put this inside like a plastic bag. So when you glue, it doesn't stick to your paper. But all I do on something this big, I mean, I could find a plastic bag that's this big, or you can put like wax paper down or something like that that'll pull up easily. But I'm lazy. I don't want to really do that. So I'm just going to, as I glue them, tack them down with glue, I will just keep pulling it up every once in a while so it doesn't get stuck to it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to lay what would be at the very bottom. So I'm going to look at this piece right here. Let me zoom in. So let's look at this quarter right here. So if I'm looking at this quarter, remember the dashed lines are the quilting lines. The solid lines are where my pieces are going to lie. So lay. So I know I have a leaf here. And all of these have been prepped. I have a leaf here, here, and here. And then I have a little bud. Hold on, it's under my paper here. A little bud here. And a big bud with a stem here. And I need a big bud here. Then I need my stem that I made. Oh, look, I still did them backwards. Oh, no. Yep, I'm going to have to remake the stems. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, I'll come back to that in a second. And I was so careful trying not to do that. And I still did it wrong. Okay, it's all good. It's okay. I need a big one here, a medium one here, and a little one here, a big one here, a medium one here, and a little one here. Okay, so now when I look at this, I'm just going to pull my pieces apart and I ask myself, what goes at the very bottom? So if you're looking at this leaf, it's lying on top of the stem. So the stem is going to have to go before I put this leaf and this flower. I hope that makes sense. Do you see how it's on top of them? But this stem is underneath this fat stem, the little stem. It's also underneath this bud. So I can go ahead and glue this on. And do you see how it's longer on both ends? Now I made mine a little too long, so I'm just going to trim a little bit of this off. I do want it to go underneath both ends. So I'm going to then take my Roxanne glue Baste it. You can use any kind of glue. You can use school glue, which I think is pretty much the same thing as this. You can, I just love this tip. You can also buy just the tip. So if you want to do that, I will, when I refill this, I will refill it with just school glue because it's cheaper. All right, so I'm going to just pull that up so it doesn't stick to my paper. Whoops, don't move it. Now, then the next thing, I can't glue this one here because this bud needs to go underneath. So then I'm going to, and notice when I put the glue on, I am placing it, I try to place it on the part that is, sorry, I'm trying to use the glue that's like stuck on the outside here. There we go. Just little dots of glue. And I place it on the folded, prepared edge. And I put it away from the edge, like the fold. Because when I stitch this down, I don't want to have to go through glue. I can, it's not a big deal, but it's just easier if I don't have to. Now, if you have tweezers, some people, especially if the pieces are little, it's easy to put it, easier sometimes to put it down with the tweezers. So I'm going to put it right on top, lining it up with the drawn line in the pattern. Now, do you see how I have plenty to be covered? I just want to get rid of, this one is awfully close to the edge, so I'm just going to trim that off because it's going to be under the green. And I'm going to trim this one off. It also will be under the green. You don't have to have this much underneath. Some people especially will try not to put that much because they want to, I just keep lifting it to make sure it's not gluing to the paper. If it glues to the paper, it pulls right off. It's not a big deal. You may have some paper left on the back of your fabric, but it washes out, so it's not a big deal. All right, so again, I'm going to just put some dots. It doesn't take a lot. I use more than you probably need. You just want it to hold there until you get it stitched down. And so then I'm going to glue this one down. I'm going to hold this one down for a second because it's actually having to sit on top of this. So I want it to kind of grab on before I let go of it. So there's that one. Okay, if I'm looking in this area, the thing that's at the very bottom is this leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the leaf down. These leaves are like one of my favorite shapes to make. I think I said already in this video that Primitive Gatherings is having a stitch along called Betsy, and it's shapes that are similar to these. They're orange peels. These are leaves, which are a little different, but orange peels are more rounded on both ends usually, or pointed at both ends, depending on which pattern you look at, I guess. So if you're interested in a simple shape applique block, it's just one shape. So that makes it very nice and simple. Now, when I look at this intersection now, the next thing that should go on is the stem. I don't have the stem, so I'm going to move on until I go make my stem, and I'll come back. Okay, just making sure I'm not stuck anywhere. And the nice thing about this is that you can use these pieces that are already glued to line it back up, because I'm going to have to pick this up to put to create my stem. So I know these two leaves can go on next. I'm just going to do 1/4 with you, because the other 3/4 are exactly like this one. So remember, the dashed lines are your stitching lines if you're going to quilt it the way they quilted it. So now the great thing about this is, let's say you mess up and glue something where it's not supposed to be. All you have to do is just pull it off and move it, because this is water-based glue. It will come off when you wash it. So, and then I'm going to glue this one down. I'm sorry about the stem not being right. I should have checked that. I thought I was being so smart. So, which is fine. I just need to, what I normally will do is I'll set this on here. Oh, wait. Oh, you know what? It matches that one. Okay, I can do that off screen. Sorry. This one can go here. Now, this one sits on top of this stem, so I'm going to wait for this one. I could go ahead and glue this to this and prep that beforehand. That's fine. I can put this one down. Now I see I need to trim a little bit off of these two edges here. So I'm just gonna trim them off a little so they're not so close to where I'm gonna stitch the green over here. And then I can, oops, I can just put it on the curved part of my green here. Sorry, my glue is getting dry, so it's coming out in globs. And I'm just going to set that down. Got too much glue there. It's fine. Rub it off on my hand. And then I can prep this. So now it's just one piece. And that's what I'm going to do with these flowers then as well. Let me make sure none of this is sticking to my paper. Nope, we're good. All right, so these are all stuck. Now these, you can't really see through them. So I'm just going to eyeball and put these down because it's not an exact science. And I'm going to go ahead and glue those together. So I'll put a little glue on my yellow one. And glue it to my medium. So, like that. And then I'll take that one and glue it. So then when it comes time to put this down, I can just glue it as one piece. You can also use a, there's an applique mat that's silicone that you can do this on as well. And you can actually press it. I've got a threads in there. It's fine. Don't worry about all the little extras. They'll come off. So, there we go. So that's what it looks like now. So I'm going to go ahead and prep this one then the same way I did this one and create my stems, and then I'll be back to show you how it all goes together then. Okay, so I was working on my stem and apparently my camera came back on and started recording. So I'm hoping I am able to crop that out because I don't know how to do that yet, but I guess it's a skill I'm going to learn. So two things I needed to show you now is I did do my stem, and come to find out these stems are all different. So you can use them, but they're not all exactly the same. So I should have cut all 4 of them out separately, which I will. I have 2 of them now that'll work. I have this one and the one right here, but the other 2 I'll just have to cut out and work separately. I'll add that to the beginning of the video when I'm cutting these out, saying that you need to cut out the 4 separately. Hopefully people are looking up when they're watching it. Okay, so again, I made this way too long, so I'm going to cut a little off at the end. I'd rather them be too long than too short, of course. So now this can be glued down here. I'm just looking at my lines. So I'm going to glue that down there. And so I will do that just like I did the other pieces. I want to put my glue towards the center. That's way too much right there. Don't do that. I want it on the folded part where it has been prepped, but I don't want it near this outside fold where I'm going to stitch it. I've decided to make my stitching video in a separate one so people can get started on this if they were waiting for me. And I think I'll just do it this way. So I'll just make a separate one. I'm going to go ahead and start making it today, but at least this one can get uploaded, and hopefully people will be able to get their block started. All right, so there's my stem. Now, the other thing I wanted to go over as well is lining pieces. And hold on, I dropped my flowers. I was getting my flowers. So I did pull, you can see, I don't know if you can tell on my computer screen, I can't see it, but there's some glue right here where it has dried. It's not a big deal. I just pulled it off, and I'm going to reposition it. So these are going to go here like this. Now, my yellow, I decided anytime you have a light color sitting on top of a dark color like this, you can faintly tell that the edge looks yellower, if that makes sense, and you can see the red kind of coming through in the center. To alleviate that, all you have to do is line the lighter piece, and I decided I probably should go over that because I hadn't discussed it. I'm looking for, I think I already threw away the little flower that I cut out. So normally I would take the little plastic piece that was this size and I would draw around it and cut inside of that, but since I already threw that piece away thinking I was finished with it, I'm just going to use this itself. So let me turn this off. All you have to do is hold down, it's just a touch button right here. If you barely touch it, it's very light, faint, the light is. So you have to actually sit there and hold it until it's at its brightest, if that's what you're needing. But to turn it off, you just barely touch it and it turns off. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm putting this, maybe I should do it on the back. And I'm going to use this as my template because I don't have my template. If I had my template, I would do it with that. This again is my friction marker. And I'm going to go around this. Oops, I just drew on it, but it's not a big deal because it'll come off with heat. So I know I need 4 of these, so I might as well draw 4 of them while I'm here. Oh no, I think I need 6 of them. And they're actually going to be smaller. You probably can't see what I'm doing. You're going to want them to actually be smaller. I'll come back and do the rest later. To be smaller than this. So this is the measure of the outside. So when I cut this out, I'm actually going to cut inside the line by at least 1/8 of an inch. I don't want to do 1/4 of an inch. I can always go back and trim off more if I need to, but can't add it on. You'd have to recut it. So I'm very much a trim it, sliver it down as needed. So I'm just trying to cut around about 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't have to be exact. It may not even look like a flower when you're finished. It needs to be the size of the center. Mine looks almost like a, oops, butterfly. All right, this is where tweezers really come in handy. I'm gonna get my good pair. So these are, I think these are Martelli tweezers. And so they stay together without doing anything. You actually push and they hold tightly. You push to open it. So I'm going to just grab my piece like with my tweezers, and I'm going to push it in. And normally I would line it up, but they're about the same. So I'm just going to take my tweezers, grab the edge, and I'm going to push it underneath the part that I prepped where I folded it over. And I'm going to let go, and I'm going to grab this little part and then tuck it under. You can also use your stiletto for this if you don't have tweezers. I find that I'm better actually with my stiletto than with tweezers. So I think I'm going to do that. Maybe if I zoom in, it'd be easier. I usually put it down on the table. There we go. So then with the stiletto, I can just shove it under the edge. Oh, hi, I'm doing it upside down. What a Dorcas. Okay, let's try it again. I want the yellow part up because that's what you're going to see through the back of the yellow. So we're just going to, the smaller the piece, I find it the more difficult to line it. A bigger piece is actually much easier to line. And really in this quilt, the only thing you're going to ever have to line is going to be the yellow because it is a lighter fabric. The red and the green are dark enough that you're not going to see anything from behind on those. All right, I think I may have to trim some of mine down as soon as I can get this one underneath. Sometimes you have to pry it up a little bit because the starch has fused it to the front part. I'm having a hard time here getting this one up. It's usually not this difficult. It's hard to do on video. Usually I would have it up closer to me, but so I'm trying to watch myself do it on the computer screen, which is not, it's backwards, so. Okay, I just keep trying to push it under. There we go. And now it's in, finally, right? So, I just need to make sure that this whole part right here, the center that doesn't have the folded edges, is completely covered. And it is. All right. So I'm going to check by placing it on here. And now, whoop, I can't see the red through it. So, now, do you have to do that? No. Absolutely. Oops, wrong way, Jennifer. Absolutely not. It's just how picky you want to be with your, oh, this part still has a little bit of the, let's see if my iron is hot enough, it'll take it off. There we go. All right. So now I just glue it down, but I'm going to go ahead and line this piece, and then I'll be right back with you. And we'll finish gluing this down. Okay, so I lined both of these. So I'm going to just go ahead and glue them on. Again, I'm not going to worry about making it look just like the pattern. I'm just going to glue it down on top in the center of my flower. Good enough. Doesn't have to be exact. The placement overall does, so that it fits within the quilt, but for things like this, it really does not matter. Now, normally I would sit here and hold this a little bit longer, but I am on video, so I'm trying to speed this up somewhat. Plus, I have an appointment in a little bit. I need to be leaving. Okay, so I'm going to hold this down so it comes back on, and let me get it into the frame. All right, so now all I have left is to glue down my 2 flowers. Again, you don't want to use too much glue. It won't hurt anything. Once you wash it, it'll come out, but it just makes it stiffer and more difficult to work with sometimes. So then I'm just going to lay this flower here. So we have that one, and then this one is the last to go down on this end. Remember, the leaf went first, then the stem, and now the flower. And then all we have left is a bud here and a leaf here. Okay, here's my bud that we put together earlier. Oh shoot, I dropped my glue. All right, this one's gonna go here. And then I need one more leaf. Don't know where I threw him, but we got another one here. If I knew how to speed it up, I could let you watch me do the whole thing, but again, I don't know how to do that either. I really wanted to work on my editing skills this summer, but the summer has been so busy. All right, I just need to make sure that I have space for this leaf to come across here. Now, remember, the glue is just on there to, it's like basting it in place. Once you actually start sewing it by hand, that's going to hold it down for good. All right, so I am going to let this dry. Well, actually, I'm going to add the other pieces and then let it dry, and then I will come back in another video showing you how then to stitch it on here. So I'll be back as soon as I have it all glued down. I'll be back to show you the whole thing, and then I'll end the video and hopefully get it up today. Sorry to come back so quickly. I should have told you that I left this up right here because this stem is actually going under this flower. So I did leave that up open, unglued, if you will, so that I could just tuck it underneath. So, and it's really not glued down. Most of them you can lift up, so I need to line it back up here. Okay, I just wanted to come back on and say that just in case. I don't think I said that in the other clip, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I have gotten everything glued down and is now ready for stitching. So this is where I'm going to end this video, and I will start the upload, and I will while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and start stitching on this. So stitching it down, and that'll be a separate video. So I hope this video wasn't too discombobulated, because it did take me a long spans of time to get it done. So hopefully then the next months will go a little better. I'm hoping then I will release these blocks once a month. After this, I don't think it's going to need to be too very detailed. I may show a little detail in the next one, just because I feel like this one may be a little, I don't think convoluted is the right word, but is a little muddled. So maybe the next one will be a little bit better, but from now on, it'll just be one video after this month, and I'm hoping to do one of these blocks a month. So again, I did have to go back and cut each of these vines out separately. So 4 different pieces. I think what I'm going to do is I will video a short intro clip with me, and I will just say, you know, as a heads up, so if anybody's like following along and pausing the video and working on it, that they know ahead of time that they can't use just one of them, that they're different shapes. So all right, so it's all ready to go, and the great thing is you can carry it around and they don't fall off, but they are not permanently attached. I can pull them off if I want to. So all right, until the next step, be kind to each other. Bye-bye.